myself comments. I do come from Australia, and yes, I am very sick right now. But hey, we've started the live stream, and yeah, looks like we've got some cars getting out on track. There's one of the Ferrari today. I mean, take a look at that weather. It's absolutely dropping it down. But yeah, short qualifying here at the circuit, Paul Ricard, and we can already see the number 23 Ferrari for that name. But hey, I had a shot at it. Anyway, obviously everyone fitting the full wet compounded tyre, the blue walled tyre, for obviously heavy rain conditions, and looks like the number 23 driver has outbroken himself there down into the chicane, and no one knows what he's doing. I think he's gone onto an AI driver. Anyway, taking a look further up the field now, we're taking a look at the Toro Rosso car of Mr. Maxpley, number 83. I don't think his car's number 83, but in these game tag, it's number 83. Take a look at some of the telemetry here. So obviously, during the wet conditions, especially on this game, I mean, it's a bit different to games like iRacing and Project Cars and Assetto Corsa. I mean, Assetto Corsa Competizione is the only one that really has wet weather compared to the stock standard Assetto Corsa. But anyway, yeah, so Formula One 2018 does a very good job of replicating the visual effect of rain, not so much necessarily feeling. Yeah, look at that, everyone outbreaking themselves down into the chicane at I gotta find what turn that is. I think it's turn 8. But yeah, what I was saying was that yeah, the weather effect on F1 2018, very realistic, not necessarily in the feel though, just the visual is what most drivers get. But yeah, it's very challenging, low traction, low grip for the drivers to have, and it really at that point comes down to your skill, being able to use gears, and being able to have the great ratios on your car to be able to bring the car around a corner, really rotate the car without rotating it too much or rotating it too less, and that can show the good drivers from the bad. But anyway, we will ride on board with Mr. Max here for the Toro Rosso team, unless he comes in. No, he's going to be starting his lap. So here we go across the start-finish line, coming down to turn 1. And this one always tricky, braking between the 100 and the 50 meter board. I think that was still a little bit early, and obviously Max using 4th gear there to be able to not over-rotate the car, but not necessarily under-rotate it. It seemed a bit low for me. I think maybe 5th gear or maybe really revving out. I have to use very low gears, and I think Max is struggling a lot with his brakes for the time being, because you can see that he's locking them up a bit. If he turn the brake bias down, then remember that the drivers do have access to that brake bias while they're driving. Usually most drivers for the wet go about 54 to 56 on the brake bias, and that can usually help. Coming down now to turn 8, so I was right. Yeah, down now to turn 8. Oh, I missed the apex a little bit, but hey, got the car rotated relatively well, and then just punching the throttle on the exit of turn 9. Now coming up to the usual flat turn 10 in the dry. Always a difficult corner. Looks like, yeah, Max not able to take in that flat this time in the wet, and I think he might have invalidated his lap as well. But that's okay. Now it's turn 11, always a corner that you have to kind of find the apex early and either go out wide and cut straight into the apex, or go out nice and thin and let the car kind of drift out so you get a bit of an exit. First time has been set of a 126.1 by the Ferrari driver, so that'll be the benchmark for all the drivers to see if they can hit. Obviously Max running a bit of low fuel there. You can see his fuel lights come on that Toro Rosso, so definitely really using a lot of fuel, and looks like he's really struggling to rotate the car there, which could be an issue. But I believe he is going to beat the Ferrari time by a long shot. Yes, he is, by almost 30 seconds, I think that is, and he goes to P1. Anyway, moving further down the grid, we got the Mercedes of Mr. Evil Dragon coming out on track. I love the style of his helmets. It's quite a nice helmet. And then we have the other Ferrari of Marcos HLB, still I think on his outlap as well. We've still got Brad in the Red Bull, still sitting there happy in the pits. we've got the Renault. So the French Grand Prix, obviously the home for Renault, being a French team. And looks like Mr. Leafy Brooms of 029 will be trying to represent his home country. Both of the Red Bulls still in the pits, and we have the host of in the Alfa Romeo Sauber team of Crassa 1990. I've probably also butchered that name, and he's in the 29 car. So we've got yellow flags, sector 3 for some reason, so let's have a squeeze around. Oh, that is someone without their front wing. That is Marcos without his front wing, and that is definitely not good. I'd imagine he's hit the barrier somewhere. Not sure where, but I'd imagine he's had an issue with it somewhere there. But yeah, anyway, the Ferrari driver now going quicker, and setting a 154 flat nearly. I'd imagine that this Ferrari driver, however, though, will be coming into the pits to get that front wing changed up. And we have the Red Bull driver, finally, of Brad coming out with 10 minutes to go. Going to get, I believe, some long laps in. Well, my opinion, and you can take it as you will. Green flags now withdrawn. Looks like the track is clear once again. Yeah, so from my opinion, oh, big slide, and he's made contact with the barrier. This is going to be interesting for the Renault coming through. Yellow flags. Red Bull rejoins back on the track relatively well. Looks like both of the Red Bulls maybe had an issue there, and I believe that, yes, he has. He's got some definite front wing damage, and the question is, will his teammate be let through by him? Because if it was me, I'd come into the pits, get that front wing prepared, fill up the car with a bunch of fuel, and go for some long laps. Look, these wet tires, having handled them myself, in personal experience, they last for a long time. You can do about 4 qualifying laps with them, and yeah, they'll. I think you're able to bang out some pretty good qualifying laps. Anyway, the Sauber driver, the number 29 car, I think it was, finally set in a very fast lap, 1:49.8, and he's done 2 laps on those wets. So as I was saying, drivers just out there pushing the limits of their cars for the time being, and with 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session, you'd imagine that they're gonna try to get the most out of their car. As Alpha Foxtrot 124 setting himself up for a lap, I'd imagine, and I'd imagine that Brad is coming into the pits with that huge lockup. I definitely imagine. Don't return to the track. I would have just gone straight on if it was me there, and tried to get to the pit lane as quickly as possible. But I think he is going to go for a lap. Yeah, he's going to go for a lap, even though he's got front wing damage. So, let's take a look what it's like to drive with front wing damage around the circuit. Paul Ricard down into turn 1, and he's absolutely cooked it. And through the foam barriers there, obviously not injuring himself. Or hopefully not injuring himself with those foam barriers, the halo protecting him, obviously. So, we will come down to Mr. Alpha Foxtrot, who looks like he's having a tough time. The other Red Bull driver, looks like everyone seems to be struggling, as that car is just revving it out, and he has just lost it, and he's retired, lost both of his wheels. It's going to be yellow flags. I don't think this will be a red flag, unfortunately, since they're not in the game. But, yeah, yellow flags, drivers will have to take caution, especially the Ferrari coming out of the pit lane. And I presume marshals will be on the track. End of sector 1 now will have green flags, so drivers will be able to resume racing, but yellow flags along the pit straight, and that is no good for the Red Bull driver, ending his qualifying early, which is no good at all. Anyway, we will come down back to the Ferrari driver of Mr. Elliot Pichu, the number 17 on his gaming profile. And I believe he's number 23 from experience. Yes, he is number 23. Um, but yes, we still take a look at the Ferrari once again, dancing along the wet for the time being. But yes, I guess we can do a couple of facts of the old circuit, Paul Ricard. So the one thing that I've always found quite cool, I guess you can say AstroTurf, or the runoff here. Obviously, there's not much grass at the circuit within the barriers, within the Armcos. So you'll see on the outside of the circuit, you'll see it if I go into the broadcast mode, you'll see these blue and red and grey type of lines that you can see the drivers when they run off. Those lines are actually kind of like curbs. They're riveted, and they've got a bit of I guess sandpaper. Around we go. A bit of sandpaper kind of on them, and that kind of slows down the cars. Works a bit like a gravel trap in a way. And that's what kind of Paul Ricard's quite famous for. And what I've always thought is the blue is about 400 grit sandpaper, and the red is about 40 grit sandpaper, because you definitely notice a difference when you go off and you hit the red. The car really slows down. Anyway, here we go for a lap. We will hide the UI so we can get a little bit of cinematicness. But the Ferrari driver now coming down to turn 1. Is he going to be able to hit the apex relatively well? No, he's not. Missed it by a long shot. That's okay, though. You can make up for it on the exit. Looks like he may as well have. Coming down to turn 3 now. Always a difficult one. Usually going down to third to second gear. Gets the car actually rotated quite well then. Into 4, now into 5. Always a tricky one. 5. Drop it maybe down to second or even first. You might even have to. Really look at that car control. He's able to rotate the car so well and keep the car stable even when aquapenning. Looks like there's a couple of puddles on the curbs there. Exiting out of 7 now down to 8, and he's spun it round, and it looks like he's hit the wall there as well. Yeah, but the front wing has come off. So yeah, maybe just too eager on the power, too eager to get that car going. Looks like the car's been able to keep that engine running. I'm sorry there, I've got a bit of a yawn. Yeah, looks like he's been able to keep the car running. But take a look at that front wing damage, the whole end plate all gone, and that is definitely not a happy chappy for him, the Ferrari driver, losing it all out. Anyway, let's find someone who needs to head out on a lap. Oi! I say that, and then we have the Red Bull driver going to Narnia and back. Looking a bit further up the grid, we have the Toro Rosso, I believe, coming into the pits now. Ferrari obviously broke that front wing. Looks like they'll be trying to push the limits now. And 3 minutes ago, you got to start making that decision. Do I come into the pits really quick, try and get that tires on those fuel fill up and head out as quickly as possible with lap times or an out lap at about, I'd say, 2 minutes 20. Oh, you're cutting it fine. And please excuse me for my gross drinking of my tea. But yes, the Sauber heading down the main straight down into turn 1. Green flags down here. I presume there was a bit of an incident. I'd imagine that is the Red Bull. So we'll hope that Red Bull does not get in the way of the Sauber. And we'll go to the outside camera, take a squiz around. Yeah, it looks like that Red Bull's got out of the way of the number 29 car as he comes down to, I believe that's turn 10? Yeah, coming down to turn 11 now. So hope he doesn't screw it up like a lot of other people have been doing. Thing about that corner at turn 11 there is that it drops and then it elevates again, so you can kind of bounce the car, and it always makes it difficult for the driver to be able to kind of figure out the braking zone, figure out the turning in to the absolute degree, and especially in the wet. Wow, look at the speed that he's carrying through these corners. It is quite magnificent. That shows why he's almost 4/10 faster than the Renault behind him. Speaking of 4/10, that's now over a second faster, and I believe that'll be his final lap unless he wants to go for one more, which I don't know if he'll have the fuel maybe to do, but hey, we can figure it out. Looks like the Renault's just come into the pit lane. Ferrari heading out for an outlap now. The Toro Rosso sticking it out and staying in the pits, and the Red Bull comes into the pits. So let's ride on board with the Sauber as he pushes the limits of that Alfa Romeo. It's not a car, it's an Alfa Romeo. Yeah, coming down the main straight, or the back straight once again. And hey, this back straight, I mean 325 kilometers an hour before the braking zone, and a big lockup. You can see using the gears to perfection there, to be able to show the control of the car, really, I'd imagine. And yeah, gears become a big thing in the wet. Being able to use them to, once again, as I said before, rotate the car, slow down the car, speed up the car. Yeah, and I think the Ferrari just got in his way there, I'd imagine. And I think he tried to apologize there, but I don't think the Sauber was going to take that very kindly. He might be setting up for another lap. Yeah, it doesn't look very happy. Looks like everyone's finished now. Time is done. The Ferrari driver is not going to be able to get another lap in. So the Sauber is going to be the only driver that is going to be able to finish the qualifying here, and I think the Ferrari driver of Eli Pichu got in the way of the Sauber driver, and that, I believe, will not be taken kindly by him. Anyway, we have the Sauber on pole position, the Renault in second, and the Ferrari rounding it out for third. So, after qualifying, we have the Sauber Alfa Romeo Formula 1 team setting the pace here with a 1:48.6. Then the Renault setting a 1:50, over a second and a half behind the Alfa Romeo, so he's definitely showing his pace, with the old or young Italian, I'm not sure, in P3. Then the Frenchman in the Toro Rosso of Max in P4, the Dutchman of Marcos in the Scuderia Ferrari setting a 2-minute lap time there in P5. We have Evil Dragon in P6, Brad in P7, and Alpha Foxtrot in P8. Not being able to set lap times, those three drivers, after, I believe, some issues. Anyway, we get ready to start the race here today. I think it's in dry conditions. Let's hope for a good one. So as we get ready for lights out here at the circuit Paul Ricard, we hope that it'll be a clean run down to turn 1. And I think we will get ready to go racing very shortly. We have the formation lap. That nearly tricked me out. Oh, and already the Toro Rosso lighting it up off the grid and making contact with the Ferrari, and those two were disqualified immediately. So those two will have definitely cold tires. Looks like we have the Sauber on the super soft compounder tire, the Renault on the super soft, the Ferrari on the super soft, and Alpha Foxtrot on the super soft as well. So everyone looks like they have gone for, I'd imagine, the one-stop strategy, going from the super soft to the soft. Which would probably be the best option in my eyes to go for, as we see the Sauber driver heating up his tires. Getting that temperature in the tires is always important. Temperature in the tires and brakes are always the most important thing. And you might always hear the engineer on this game say, don't rev the engine too high. And he's actually right. You never really want to rev the engine too high in these cars. I mean, they have a rev limit of about 13,500, and that is always wanted to be changed, in my opinion. I always want V10s back, but hey, yeah, so never really rev the engine too high in these cars. I always like to use the high gears. I'm still able to get the same amount of temperature in the tires as someone using lower gears. Yeah, I like to keep the engine below 100 degrees on the formation lap. Just allows it not to get any damage, not to overheat. So yeah, it's always good. Anyway, we now get ready to go racing as the cars will form up. Green flags waved to signify that everything is okay on the track. Nothing bad. The drivers still heating their tires up as they come up to the line. But yeah, we get ready to go racing here at the circuit. Paul Ricard, one car missing on the grid. The two Red Bulls at the back will have to watch out for that. We get ready to go racing here at the circuit. Paul Ricard, 5 red lights, lights out, and away we go. The Sauber looks like to get an alright start. That Red Bull's got an amazing start, however, as they trundle down to turn 1. Looks like the Sauber's able to defend the inside, leaving no room for the Ferraris. 2 Red Bulls having a little battle at the back. Looks like the Renault is having a bit of a tussle. 2 of the Red Bulls having a fight with the Toro Rosso. Looks like the Sauber has cut off one of the Ferraris, and the other Ferrari looks like to be struggling. All of the drivers are currently on the super softs. The Ferrari locks up the number 6, loses all the places down the grid, and he's got dropped down to P7. Looks like the Ferrari, the number 20, have a little ding-dong battle. They're still inside one another. We move back up to the top of the field where the Renault not going to have a dive just yet. Thinking about his position later on in the race. Taking a look at the Sauber driver still. And still following him down. And I said that turn 10 would be flat out. It is. There they go. I'm presuming some drivers are using a setup, which will definitely play into conjunction during the race. Looks like the Renault and the Sauber are uncontested. Oh, a bit of a drift there for the Sauber. Maybe he's struggling on this setup. Yeah, I'm not really sure on what's going on between these 2 Red Bulls. We'll ignore that. Looks like the Toro Rosso. I'm not sure if he has damage, but he's very slow because the Ferrari went for a move. Ferrari has lost its front wing. I'm presuming there will be a steward's inquiry about that, because that was a big front wing loss. There's the Red Bull. Sorry, no. The Toro Rosso I thought was going to come into the pit lane. Didn't end up coming into the pit lane. So I'm presuming the Ferrari's going to have a go down the inside. Switches to the outside. Unable to do it just yet. Both of them run wide. And I'm presuming that Toro Rosso is going to get a penalty for that. But only time will tell. And back. Oh, big lockout. Oh, that was going to be very, very dangerous if the Toro Rosso came back onto the track. Good thinking from the Toro Rosso not to come under the track. Anyway, moving back up to the top of the grid. And we're only a little bit through lap 2, but as all Formula 1 races, we've got to start thinking about the tyres and wondering when they're going to come in for their first pit stop. I'm going to say lap 12, maybe lap 13, I'd imagine. But yeah, looks like things are going to start to spread out a bit. And these cars are going to start to being able to maybe stretch the life on the tyres a bit. Maybe, just maybe. So already a 4-second gap and a 3-second time penalty for Max in the Toro Rosso. But yeah, already a 4-second gap from 3rd place to 1st. And I believe those two will be having a little bit of a struggle to try and catch it up. 6-second gap. Sorry, and a 16-second gap for Max to the leader. So everyone really losing a lot of time to the Sauber driver. As we'll now ride on board with the Renault, since it's a home Grand Prix. We'll ride on board for a couple of laps, and we'll take a quick squiz at him going around. I'm going to be quiet for a bit just so I can clear my throat and get things a couple of sorted for a bit later on in the race. So I'm going to leave you guys to enjoy the Renault. I might switch around the drivers every now and again, and you guys let me know. So enjoy it. I'll be back in a couple of laps time. So we now come back to the Sauber driver coming into the pit lane for his first stop. I'm not sure if the Red Bull or the Ferrari will follow him in. Anyway, he goes on to the soft compound of tyre. Wabam, there's the change. The soft being the hardest compound tyre available here at the circuit's Paul Ricard. Released now. 3-second time penalty for corner cutting for the Renault behind him. The question is does the Renault come in? I believe the Renault has already come in, and he is on the ultra soft compounded tyre, and that is very interesting. So he'll really be going for it. He'll be going for the fastest lap, I'd imagine. And the Ferrari behind him still setting it out. There's the Red Bull, the Ferrari behind him on the super soft compounded tyre. But yes, he of the 29 Sauber car is now on the soft compounded tyre. And I'll pop up a little bit more information. There we go. And that's all the tyres that people are on. So we also have the Red Bull on the soft compounded tyre, and he's, I'd imagine, just switched over to them. But the Sauber goes very, very wide, and very, very wide, does he not? But yeah, very, very wide for the Sauber. Yes, very, very interesting. Anyway, I'm going to still leave you with these guys. I'll come back around lap 24, lap 23. So yeah, this should be a interesting one. It's looking very, very spicy. It looks like everyone's quite close. There's a Ferrari in the pits going on to the softs now. And that's the Toro Rosso, I believe, already in the pits, just gone onto the softs. So this looks like the time that everyone is coming into the pit lane. Actually, we might stay for the Renault, maybe trying to go for the overtake. If I do see him make the overtake, I will let you guys know. But look at the speed that he's closing up that Ferrari with. I mean, that is just insane. Actually, you know what? I'm going to stay for a bit. No, the Ferrari darted into the pit lane. I'd imagine he is going to go on to the soft compounded tyre as well. And yes, he is. There we go. That's the soft on the Ferrari. He's out. And there's the Red Bull going onto the soft compounded tyre as well. So as we start the final lap here at the circuit Paul Ricard, 27 laps later, the Sauber still going wide on those soft compounded tyres that he pitted for 14 laps ago. He is going to bring it home, I'd imagine, to win the French Grand Prix here for Alfa Romeo Sauber. We'll take a quick look down the field. We've got the Renault sitting happy in P2, who's just about to lap that Toro Rosso, I'd imagine. The Ferrari still in P3, the Red Bull in P4, and the other Red Bull in P5. Then we finally have the Toro Rosso rounding out P6. So, as the Alfa Romeo comes down to turn 8, going through turn 9 now, and then coming up to the flat turn 10 still. Oh, I'm having a bit of a yawn. But yeah, also I should apologise. Sorry that I haven't done much commentating today. I'm just really sick, and I've got a couple of SACs coming up, tests coming up in school later today. It's still about 6:30 in the morning for me. So yeah, it's a bit early. So I've been doing some studying. But yes, nothing can ever turn me away from a good race on Formula 1 2018. And as the Sauber turns around the final couple of corners, he's got 2 corners to go, 1 corner to go now, and he will be able to bring it home for the win here at the French Grand Prix. I nearly said the Baku Grand Prix. The French Grand Prix. You have your winner today, a Crasher 1990. And coming home in P2 will be the Renault. And 3-second time penalty for the Toro Rosso. Be the Renault on the super soft compounded tyres. He pitted for the ultra softs earlier and tried to set some quick laps, but I'm not sure if he was able to do it. He comes across the line to snag P3. That's your top 2, and then we have finally the final Ferrari driver coming around the final corner. Oh, excuse me, bit of a yawn. He comes around the corner to finished for P3 or P4 apparently. Maybe he had a couple of penalties, I'd imagine. Anyway, we'll take a look at the final grid standings. So once again, the final standings is the Alfa Romeo in first, the Renault of Leafy Brooms in second, and the Red Bull of Bradelan in the Aston Martin Red Bull racing car, rounding out P3, the Italian of Ale Pichu in P4, Alpha Foxtrot in P5, Max Play in P6, and Marcos in P7. 18 seconds worth of penalties for Leafy, and I believe how many seconds worth of penalties for the Ferrari driver? 9 seconds worth of penalties, as well as Carazad. 24 seconds worth of penalties for Max, and Marcos had 19 seconds worth of penalties. Anyway, thank you for joining me for the French Grand Prix. Thank you for joining us on Gavra Racing. Be sure to look, I believe there's the GT4 race coming up later in about 14-15 hours. So be sure to catch that. I'm definitely going to catch it because I love GT racing. So be sure to catch that, and I will catch you again. Thanks for watching. It's Finn Kelly. Have a great day.